Hey, what is up everyone? My name is Sukanto Roy and you are watching Coding with Roy. So if you are new to this channel, then we talk about career development, interview processes, interview experiences and basically everything that is going to help you in making a great career in the IT industry. So if you are interested in any of these topics, then please hit the subscribe button and the bell notification to become a part of this growing community. Timestamps as always will be in the description, so if you want to move to any specific part of the video, feel free to do so. So let's start by talking about the TCS appraisal process. After you know the whole appraisal process, I'll tell you what will happen for your first year appraisal. And because once you get a whole understanding of the appraisal process, it will be easier for you to understand what is going to happen in your first year appraisal. And after that, I'm going to tell you some basic pointers about each appraisal bands and everything. So the TCS appraisal process is common for everyone in the organization. Unlike the first year appraisal, the TCS appraisal process will happen in the same time for everyone in the organization. And it normally ends in the month of March, and all the ratings that are collected in the month of March are then translated into corresponding bands. So basically at the end of March, all the appraisal process for the previous fiscal year should be concluded and everyone should fill their goal sheets and attribute sheets. I'll get into what goal sheets and attribute sheets are if you are not aware. And after all the ratings are collected in April or May, the appraisal bands are released, and subsequently your hike will also be released. The appraisal process, even though it ends in March, it does not start in March. It starts much before that. In most of the projects, the appraisal process should start somewhere around December or early January. It can start much before that as well, with the recent phenomenon, something called continuous feedback that TCS wants to follow. It can start much before that as well. So basically TCS keeps all the track of the appraisal process in something called Speed portal. So Speed is a portal, that is a web portal for TCS for them to keep track of the whole appraisal process. So it has a layout something like there will be questions and you will basically comment on all the targets and all the attributes and everything. You will comment your input on that, and based on that also the appraiser and reviewer is going to give you rating. So this is how the appraisal process looks like. So once the whole process is set to start, you will first go to Speed portal and you will select your appraiser and you will select your reviewer. So normally your appraiser will be someone that you have closely worked with. It can be the team lead, or if it is a big team, then there can be sub teams inside a team as well. So if it is a 25-30 member team, there can be individual like 5-6 member sub teams as well. So it can also be that sub team lead also, and then there will be a reviewer who is in a much higher level, that is probably the project manager. So once you select your appraiser and your reviewer in the Speed portal, in most of the projects the appraiser sets goals for you. In some projects you will also have to set your own goal, so it can vary depending on project to project, but mostly in the from my experience, the appraiser sets goals for you and all the people who are under that appraiser. And once the goal sheets and attribute sheets are assigned to the associate, the associate have to give their own feedback and rating based on that. Now what is a goal sheet? A goal sheet is something consists of a bunch of targets that you have to fulfill in the previous fiscal year. It can be like 0 escalation from your side, and the associate should have like one praise from the client or something like that. These are like performance based targets that you will have to fulfill in the fiscal year for that particular goal to get achieved. And if you can fill that, you are going to get points based on that. So that is the whole process. Basically, once you get the goal sheets assigned, a lot of times you are going to see that you had no idea these things you had to do in the previous fiscal year, because that is how normally what happens is when you get assigned your goal sheets in January or December, you will see, okay, so I was supposed to write 1 or 2 white papers. I was supposed to give some entries in journals and even write some technical blogs and all. But you probably will not do that, because if you are not aware of that, and mostly people in the IT sector, mostly people do not do that, like the majority of the people. But these goals will be there because it will help you, like help the project and the company distinguish the people who are doing much more than what they are expected to do. If they do much more than that, there obviously should be a way for the company to distinguish those people. So that is the whole idea. You will have a goal sheet assigned to you that will be the performance factors, and then there is something called an attribute sheet. Now the attribute sheet will be more focused on the characteristics that a person has, if you know what I mean. Like the characteristics as in the person's leadership qualities, how they're like, are they willing to mentor, are they willing to go beyond their or set amount of time, like office hours, are they willing to go beyond that to work on something, are they flexible. All of these things come under the attribute section, and the attribute sheet you have to fulfill. Like you have to comment on those specific points, like yes, there was a time I did this, there was a time I did this, that shows this particular skill. So all of these things you will have to fill. And now one point I will here iterate is that do not downplay your, like what you have done for the project. Do not downplay that. Like you can think that okay, this is a very small thing, I will not include that, because who will, like if the appraiser and reviewer sees this, what are they going to react like? But you have to mention your own points. You have to keep everything that you have done clearly and with full transparency. You have to keep those points in the goal sheet, because if you do not do that, the appraiser may not recognize you for that, and then the appraiser may give you less rating than you deserve. So keep that in mind. Do not downplay yourself. Always mention what you have done truly. You have, and focus on writing more concisely and in a way that portrays you in a good light. Okay, so you have to do these things. If you're in the corporate sector, you have to articulate yourself in such a way that feels like yes, you have achieved those goals. And even if you have not achieved those goals, there should be a way for you to communicate to the appraiser and reviewer that you are working on those things. Like say for example, the person should finish 2 trainings in the fiscal year. Okay, that is a goal, but you have not finished any 2 trainings, you have not accomplished any certificate and everything. Then you can mention that yes, I have worked on these things, but because of X amount of reasons I was not able to get those certifications, but I am willing to do this for the next cycle, and I hope I will be able to fulfill this. In this way you have to mention, like everything you write in the goal sheet, everything you write in the attribute sheet should be aimed to show you in a positive light. Like do not be like, no, I could not do that, sorry for that. Like don't be like that. There has to be a way for you to communicate that you are going to improve this in the future. Only then the appraiser and reviewer are going to see that in a positive light. Okay, so I got sidetracked there. So basically, yeah, so the main thing is you will have the goal sheet, attribute sheet. Once you fill those goal sheets and attribute sheets, then the process will go from your hand to the appraiser's hand. Now the appraiser, as I mentioned, can be your team lead or someone who has closely worked with you in a, like you have reported to that person. So that person's job is to evaluate everything you have written in the goal and attribute sheets and see if they are actually done or not, and basically give their own feedback in forms of comments on your feedback, and then give you a rating based on that. Now your feedback and rating and the appraiser's rating is going to be aggregated to give you the IPF or individual performance factor for you. That will be the initial rating that you are going to get. After the whole process is going to shift to the reviewer. So that person is going to see the IPF that was offered to you and all the feedbacks that you have given and all the feedbacks that the appraiser has given. and based on that they are going to give you a final rating. Now remember one thing, that is the IPF or individual performance factor can be anything between 0 to 5. So basically it can be any real number, that is like 3.83, 4.56, all of these can be your IPF, but the final rating is a absolute value. So it can either be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So based on that IPF your final rating is decided. So for example, if you got a IPF of 4.56, that can correlate to a final rating of 5 or a final rating of 4. Now this is not a general round off, like a lot of people confuse this as like a rounding off, like if I get 4.68 or 4.78, that immediately means that I will get a 5. But that is not always the case. Unfortunately, that is not always the case. The reviewer is going to decide whether you are eligible for the 5 rating or you are eligible for the rating of 4. So even if you get say 4.6 or 4.3, you can get 5 or you can get 4. That is completely based upon the feedback that the reviewer is going to give you. There can be reviewer biases also, because in a lot of places, as it is a corporate sector, there is no hiding it that there will be politics, internal politics and everything, and there can be situations where you think that I got an IPF of 4.67, say for example, but that I will get a 5 rating, but that cannot be the case always. You can get a rating of 4 as well, so keep that in mind. So once you get the final rating from the reviewer, now the appraisal process finally closes. Now the HR also goes through this. HR is the final verdict. They are going to go through the whole process. They can see your feedback, appraiser's feedback, reviewer's feedback, and they can then decide based on that if there has to be any changes in the final rating or not. So the end is the HR person, who is the HR point of contact. They will be the final reviewer, and they are going to decide if there has to be any changes made. So you can raise your issues also if you have gotten some rating that you are not happy with, so you can raise a concern. So in that case the HR is going to sit with you and the reviewer and the appraiser and then figure out if there has to be any changes made in the rating as well. If the changes are needed to be made, then it will be made, and if it is not made, then the final rating that the reviewer has given you is going to be your final rating for this appraisal cycle, and then the appraisal is going to close at the month of March. Now once it closes in the month of March, your performance bands are going to be released in the month of April or May, or after that, depends on the company, what the company feels like, it will be released. And along with that, after some time, your revised CTC with the hike that you are going to get, you will be received. Okay, now that you have understood about the whole appraisal process, let me tell you about the first anniversary appraisal. This particular appraisal is unlike the normal appraisal process. It is a individual thing, and it happens only once in your entire TCS career. Because once you get inside TCS, after 1 year of completion of service, you are going to get one particular hike, and that hike is going to be a very significant one compared to the hike that you will normally get after the first appraisal. Normally in the first appraisal you can expect 10, 15, 20% hike as well, depending on your performance, but after that it will go much below that. As in the normal appraisal cycle, it is nowhere close to 15%, man, in 15-20%. So once you get inside TCS, after 1 year, so say for example you got in you joined TCS in 1st August, so the next year 1st August is going to be your first anniversary, right? And in that anniversary you will be receiving one particular appraisal, but the process will start from 1 to 2 months prior to that. If your first date is 1st August, you can expect the whole process to start at, say for example, mid of June, and by the end of July it should wind up. like the whole appraisal process should wind up for you. But the whole process is something very similar to the normal appraisal process. So if you are assigned to any project, the appraiser or reviewer is going to assign you, tell you to fill up the goal sheets and attribute sheet. Just like the normal appraisal process, you will have a goal sheet to fill, you will have an attribute sheet to fill. You fill those things, you get reviewed by the appraiser. Appraiser gives you a rating, that is your IPF, and after you get your IPF, your final reviewer, the reviewer is going to give you the final rating. Everything that I mentioned in the appraisal process applies here also. Now, one thing that is different from the normal appraisal is that in first anniversary appraisal, you are not like given any band. The band is only going to get assigned in the normal appraisal process, but you are going to get like hike also. You are going to get rating, and based on that rating, you are going to get a percentage of hike. And it is significant, like it can be 10 to 20% also based on your rating. Now let's talk about a more Q&A kind of thing, like where you have mentioned a lot of doubts regarding the appraisal process, and I will tackle them one by one, and I will also tell you what is the probability of you getting one specific band, and what are the implications of getting that band. Okay, so the first point I'll address here is the C band. In which cases you can get a C band? Normally, in my experience, I have not seen C band being very common, because normally the most common band is B band. If you meet the expectations of the project, you are going to get a B band. Mostly people get a B band if you can maintain your performance. If you are not performing at all, if you are not, like if you are causing escalations, this is something that you have to be aware of. If you are the reason of 1 or 2 escalations in one fiscal year, then there are chances that you are going to get a C band, because these things are very taken very seriously. The escalations in TCS and in any service based company, escalations from client side are something that are taken very seriously. And if you have been identified to cause 1 or 2 or more escalations, then probably you will be getting a C band, and you may also get a release after the appraisal process. Because if you are getting like you're causing 3 escalations, then I don't know. But if you maintain a decent performance, you are not going to get a C band. I have not seen that in my experience. But one thing I'll mention, that sometimes, and this is uncomfortable truth, that is, if you ask for release too much in a project, the project manager can give you release by showing you that you are not performing well, and then they can give you a C band. Okay, even if you got a final rating of say 4, you can get a C band if manager wants you to be out of the project. That is one case where you can get a C band. If be very careful if you ask for a release. In right now, if you are say in TCS digital profile and you are getting the elevate incentive, once you ask for release, you have to be very sure that you are in a good terms with your manager, and you have to be very sure that you are not getting release from the project at the time of appraisal. Because at the time of appraisal, if you ask for a release, then there can be a situation where the manager is going to give you the C band, and then they will release you from the project, because they have to show to the client as well why they are releasing you, because the client wants to retain you, the client wants to retain the associates. So a lot of times the managers, and it is not specific to TCS, I am not talking about TCS, in a lot of big multinational service based companies, you will see this, that if the client wants to hold you and you repeatedly say that you do not want to work for this particular project, as a show cause, the manager will give you a C band saying that the performance was not at par. And they will say this to the HR also and to the clients as well. That is one common thing. Keep these things in mind, but do not be very worry about these particular bands and everything, because the C band specifically, I have not seen that much. Like I mentioned, if you maintain a decent performance, you are not going to get a C band. Now, to talk about A bands, a lot of people have asked me what are the chances of me getting an A band, and what will be the salary hike and everything. So basically in TCS you can get a salary hike of 2% to 8-9% in TCS, and in also other service based companies also I have seen this, that the salary hike will be anywhere between 2% to 8-10%. that is the maximum. So if you are getting a band, you can get a like 10% or something like that salary hike. But what are the chances of getting an A band? It is very slim. You can like, because the A band is a very limited thing, because it holds a certain value, right? If you are getting A band, that means you are performing really well. Either you are performing really well or the projects need you very much. So that is the reason the people get A band. Either you have performed exceptionally well, and there is no way in which you can be given B band, because then you will protest, because you have filled all the goal sheets and everything, you have filled all the target. So that can be one way in which you can get A band. Or also a lot of cases it can happen that the project really needs you. It is at a point where your participation in the project is very much needed. So if that is the case, then also the manager, to convince you, can give you a band, and with that you will get a good salary hike of like the normal percentage. So those are the two cases where I have seen people getting A band. Just because you perform really well may not necessarily mean that you deserve a band. So it is an uncomfortable truth of the IT industry, and that is that even if you perform like really well, there can be places where you get a B band. Say there is a person who manages 4, 5, 6 people, okay, and that person has done a lot of work, but you feel like you have done like exceptional work. There are chances that that person is going to get the A band in, and you are going to get the B band. Why? Simply because the project needs that guy more than you. Even if you are just getting in the project and you are doing exceptionally well, if you are not managing 5-6 people, but that guy is managing 5-6 people, so even if their performance is not at that level, they have not like put in weekends and everything, they can get a band. So that is the uncomfortable truth. So I guess that covers everything that I could talk about the TCS appraisal process. I hope you like this video. If you found anything valuable, then please comment down. If you have any specific question also, you can comment down. And if you have not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe and become a part of with the Coding with Roy community.